Imagine, for a moment, that the greatest obstacle in your life isn't the lack of opportunities or the external challenges you face every day, but something much closer and more intimate. The biggest enemy of your happiness and success is incredibly near, so close that you can't see it. Yet, it's there, lurking in every decision you make and every thought that crosses your mind. This enemy, silent and treacherous, resides within you, infiltrating every choice and every step you hesitate to take. How many times have you refrained from doing something you truly wanted? How many times has a brilliant idea popped into your head, but at the moment to act, something made you back off? Have you ever stopped to think about what paralyzes you? There's an invisible force shaping your decisions, stifling your aspirations, chaining you to a life that might not be what you really want. This power isn't an external force. It's not something imposed by society or circumstances, as many believe. In fact, it's fueled by your fear, a subtle, almost imperceptible fear that we all carry. The fear of judgment from others. The opinions you never asked for that insist on dictating what's right or wrong for you. But what if I told you this could come to an end? That this invisible force can be overcome? That there's a way to break these chains? Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to keep receiving content that will lead you to true transformation. The key to this liberation lies in understanding what truly binds us. And believe me, it's not what others think, but the constant pursuit of something that, deep down, you might not even need. From an early age, we're taught to seek approval. At home, in school, at work, the external validation has become the standard by which we measure our worth. We want to be accepted, praised, respected. But what few realize is that this seemingly harmless quest can turn into a real trap. It's like a silent addiction that takes over, determining our choices and shaping our actions without us even noticing how much it confines us. Today's society only reinforces this dependence. A recent study from Harvard University found that the need for social validation is deeply ingrained in human behavior, to the point that many of us prioritize others' opinions over our own happiness. The most alarming part? This trend is on the rise, especially among the younger generations, who increasingly live for how they are perceived. Think about it. How many times have you changed your opinion, your clothes, or even your lifestyle to please others? How many important decisions in your life were influenced, not by what you truly wanted, but by what you believed others expected of you? This behavior may seem harmless at first, but in reality, it's a true prison. And here's the point that few understand. The quest for validation will never be satisfied. No matter how many compliments, likes, or approvals you receive, there will always be a sense of emptiness. This is because, deep down, external validation is an addiction, a need that can never be fully met. What it really does is reinforce an illusion, the illusion that we need something outside ourselves to feel complete. This trap of validation is one of the greatest silent enemies of our happiness and often goes unnoticed. We convince ourselves that we are simply following the norms, that we are adapting, when in fact we are drifting further away from who we truly are. The more we seek to please others, the more we lose ourselves. But why does this happen? What makes us believe that external approval is so important? The answer lies deep within our nature. Since ancient times, humans survived in groups, and being accepted by the community meant security. However, in the modern world, this need has become distorted. Today, we seek approval not just from our close circle, but from an entire society, from social media filled with faces we don't even know. The question we need to raise is, how long will we allow this quest to control us? How long will we live for an acceptance that will never be complete? This is the true enemy. The idea that we constantly need others' validation to be who we really are. But, as you'll see next, this is a cycle that can and must be broken. Imagine a child full of dreams, spontaneous, curious, unafraid to express how they feel and who they are. Now, imagine that same child growing up in a world where every gesture is scrutinized, where every mistake is judged, and where, little by little, they start to realize that being themselves isn't always welcome. Gradually, that child who once felt free begins to hide. They learn to wear masks. First, to please their parents, they do what is expected of them, following what they are told is right. Then, at school, the masks multiply. They discover they need to act one way with peers to be accepted and another with teachers to be respected. And so, these masks begin to pile up, layer upon layer, until one day, the true identity of that child, now a young adult, is buried beneath all the expectations of others. As this child grows, the pattern repeats in new spheres. At work, they pretend to be someone they're not to impress their boss. In relationships, they shape themselves to please their partner, fearing they won't be loved if they show their true self. Gradually, the weight of these masks increases, and they begin to feel a profound disconnection from themselves. A sense of emptiness, of always playing roles but never living the truth of who they are. You might identify with this story. Perhaps, at some point in your life, you too wore a mask to fit in, to avoid disappointment, to escape criticism. And maybe, today, those masks have become such a part of you that it's hard to tell where the expectations of others end and your true self begins. The story of this child who grew up trying to please is the story of many of us. And the most dangerous part is that, throughout life, these masks don't just disappear. On the contrary, they become part of our identity. And worse, often we don't even realize we're wearing these masks. We think the choices we make and the actions we take are products of our own will, when in fact they are shaped by the expectations of others. But the truth is, the more we live for others, the more we lose ourselves. It's like a silent, insidious trade-off. Every time you act to please others, a part of your true identity is left behind. And thus, life passes by, and you find yourself increasingly distant from who you once dreamed of being. So what's left? The child who was once free, full of dreams and unafraid to be themselves, now lives within an invisible prison, shaped by the expectations of a society they never questioned. This story, which begins as a tale of conformity, ultimately becomes a narrative of identity loss. The child has hidden away, often remaining hidden forever, unless something awakens them. But this story doesn't have to end tragically. The good news is that there's always a chance to break this cycle, to peel away the masks and return to being who you really are. However, the first step is understanding that the expectations of others should never hold so much power over us. They don't define who we are. They shouldn't shape our lives. And this leads us to the central question: to what extent do the expectations of others reflect their own insecurities? Are they truly their responsibilities, or merely projections of fears that aren't theirs? Often, we ask ourselves, why do the expectations of others carry so much weight in our lives? Why do we feel the need to meet others' demands, even at the cost of our own authenticity? The answer lies in something few recognize. The expectations others have of us don't concern who we are, but who they are. Carl Jung, a renowned psychologist, introduced the concept of projection, explaining that people often project their own insecurities, fears, and desires onto others. When someone judges us or imposes their expectations, they aren't truly concerned about us. They're reflecting their own internal dilemmas. It's like a distorted mirror reflecting their flaws and anxieties, creating the illusion that we need to live by their standards. Think about it. How many times have you been advised by someone who was, at their core, just transferring their own frustrations? Someone who said your dream was too risky, that you should take the safe path, or that you should think more about the consequences. Most of the time, those words reflect that person's fear, not yours. But what happens when we follow these projections? When we bow to the expectations of others, we abandon essential parts of ourselves. In trying to avoid disapproval, we become mere characters in a play written by someone else, where we will never be the protagonists. The most dangerous part is that the more we give in, the stronger this dynamic becomes. We get used to living for others, and our true identity drifts further away, becoming almost unrecognizable. This cycle of conformity and projection is a trap. It makes us believe that we must be a certain way to deserve love, respect, or success. But in reality, the expectations of others have nothing to do with who we really are. They are burdens that we unfairly take on as our own. As long as we carry this weight, we cease to live our own lives. It's crucial to understand that people are trapped in their own internal battles. When you receive unsolicited advice, criticism, or opinions about what you should do, remember, Often, these expectations reflect the limitations the other person feels in their own life. They do not belong to you. True freedom begins when you grasp this. When you stop feeling responsible for meeting others' expectations and start questioning, why does this opinion affect me so much? Does it really reflect something that's important to me? Or is it just a projection that shouldn't bother me? Living to meet the expectations of others builds an invisible prison, a cell made of external opinions. To escape, you need to understand that no one, other than you, knows what's best for your life. The approval you seek cannot be found in the eyes of others because it will never be there. It exists only within you. With this in mind, we start to unveil another significant trap that reinforces this quest for validation. Social media. If projection and expectations were already a problem in the past, the digital age has amplified this issue to unprecedented levels. We live in an era where the approval of others is not only around us but is constantly measured and visible. Social media has turned this quest for validation into an endless cycle of comparisons and judgments. What used to be limited to our family, friends, or colleagues is now in the hands of millions of strangers who can evaluate every aspect of our lives with a simple tap on a screen. A world of likes, followers, and comments has become the thermometer of acceptance or rejection. The psychological impact of this phenomenon is devastating. The pursuit of likes and online approval acts like a drug, releasing dopamine each time we receive positive feedback. The problem is that, like any addiction, this momentary pleasure requires larger doses to be satisfied. The number of likes that once brought fleeting satisfaction quickly becomes insufficient, and we find ourselves caught in a constant cycle of content production to maintain the feeling of acceptance. But the uncomfortable truth is that this kind of validation will never be enough. It's an insatiable hunger. According to recent research on the impact of social media on mental health, such as a study by the Royal Society for Public Health in the UK, platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are directly linked to rising levels of anxiety and depression, especially among young people. It's not hard to understand why. On these platforms, everyone seems to be living perfect lives. Every photo carefully edited, every post meticulously planned to appear more interesting, more successful, more happy. This creates a distortion of reality where comparison becomes inevitable. What these social networks do is trap us in a constant cycle of comparison, where it always seems like someone is ahead, living a fuller life, and we feel compelled to keep up with that pace. It's as if we're participating in an endless race, where the finish line is always invisible and unattainable. And the more we chase validation, the more we lose control of our own lives. We become slaves to public opinion, hostages of algorithms. And there's something even more dangerous. Social media is designed to manipulate our desire for approval. Each platform uses algorithms that not only reinforce our validation-seeking behaviors but also capitalize on them. The more dependent we become on these virtual interactions, the more time we spend on them, consuming content that perpetuates this cycle. Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to put your phone down after scrolling through your feed for hours? It's no coincidence. Social media is deliberately constructed to capture your attention and keep you trapped in a cycle of seeking approval. But the question we rarely ask ourselves is, whose approval am I really seeking? Most of the followers or friends we have on social media are people we don't even know deeply. So why put in so much effort to please them? Should the opinion of someone you've never met truly carry so much weight in how you see yourself? This addiction to virtual approval turns us into puppets of algorithms. Every time we post something, we aren't just sharing a moment from our lives. We're offering our emotional well-being to be measured and validated by others. We're saying to the world, "Please approve of me. Tell me I'm good enough." But in the end, the approval we seek in these digital spaces only distances us from who we really are. Our identity becomes fragmented among filters, hashtags, and likes. Authenticity is lost because the image we project online often doesn't correspond to our truth. We're constantly adjusting our lives to appear more attractive, more palatable, more accepted, all in exchange for a validation that is, at its core, superficial and fleeting. The trap of social media is subtle yet powerful. It leads us to believe that we are what we show online, that our worth is in the digital interactions we collect. Thus, we become dependent on these platforms, shaping our choices and behaviors based on an audience that, most of the time, isn't even paying attention. But here's the truth. Online approval is an illusion. It will never be enough because it doesn't reflect who we truly are. It reflects a manufactured version of ourselves created to please others. True validation doesn't come from numbers or comments, cannot be measured by algorithms. When we finally realize that this race for digital approval is a trap, we begin to free ourselves from the constant cycle of comparison and the anxiety it brings. And by doing so, we can finally focus on what truly matters, being true to ourselves without needing the gaze of millions to feel complete. This understanding is the first step to breaking free from the excessive worry about what others think of us. Now we need to comprehend how this concern can seep into other areas of our lives without us even realizing it. Many of us face this every day, the excessive worry about what others think of us. The infamous external approval. Have you ever stopped to think about how this can paralyze us? Sometimes it feels like we're always under a critical gaze, as if every move we make is being evaluated. It's exhausting, isn't it? Imagine you had an incredible idea you wanted to share with your team at work. You're excited, but when it's time to speak up, an intrusive thought creeps in. What if they don't like it? What if they think I'm being ridiculous? This insecurity can make you back down from speaking. It's frustrating, and the worst part is that this doesn't just happen at work. It occurs in many areas of life, at school, in friendships, even on social media. The truth is, this worry about pleasing others can become a genuine trap. Instead of living according to our own desires, we feel compelled to adjust our behavior, opinions, and even our dreams just to avoid criticism. This is a vicious cycle that pulls us away from our true essence. And let's be honest, often, people aren't paying that much attention to us anyway. Everyone is so immersed in their own worries and insecurities that they hardly notice what we're doing. So why is this need for approval so strong? Many times it relates to our own insecurity. When we're not comfortable with who we are, we seek external validation to feel better. But here's the big question. This validation is never enough. When we finally get approval, for a moment, everything seems fine. But soon after, that feeling fades, and we're back in search of more validation. It's a cycle that can leave us exhausted and unfulfilled. And deep down, what we really need is a shift in perspective. So, how can we deal with this excessive worry? The first step is to practice self-compassion. Think about how you treat your friends. When they make a mistake, you're understanding, right? Now ask yourself, am I being as kind to myself as I am to others? This mindset shift can be powerful. Another strategy is to challenge your thoughts. When you notice that you're worried about what others might think, ask yourself, does this worry even make sense? Is this person's opinion really that important in my life? Often, the answer will be a resounding no. So why not start acting according to what you truly want? And, of course, one of the best ways to free yourself from this pressure is to focus on what you love. Instead of getting caught up in others' expectations, why not dedicate yourself to your own passions? What makes your heart race? What brings joy to your life? When you focus on what you genuinely love, other people's opinions start to lose some of their weight. Remember, you don't need others' approval to be valuable. You are enough just as you are. And that's liberating. When you begin to feel comfortable in your own skin, the need to please others diminishes, and you become more authentic. Life is too short to live according to the expectations of those who aren't truly us. By doing this, we start to break free from the invisible prison we've built over the years. What truly matters is your happiness and what makes you feel fulfilled. Let's take a moment to reflect on how damaging it is when we spend so much time living to please others. Think about how many dreams, opportunities, and amazing moments you've let slip by because you were more concerned with meeting others' expectations. Have you ever stopped to consider the times you set aside that idea that could have changed your life? Or when you hesitated to chase a dream out of fear of what someone else might think? It's not uncommon. It's easy to fall into that trap. Time passes, and with it, opportunities. Every time you say no to yourself to please someone else, a little bit of your potential slips away. And that's painful. Speaking of time, let's not forget that it's our most precious resource. It doesn't come back. Every moment you invest trying to fit into what others want is a moment you can never reclaim. Remember, life is too short to live for others. Have you realized that? Every day you live for external approval is a day you lose to live your own truth. Now, imagine the emptiness that comes when you disconnect from who you really are. This disconnection creates a space within us that feels incomplete. You might achieve things, even receive applause and praise, but deep down, you know that's not what will fill that void. This feeling prompts us to ask, what do we really want? Because the truth is that every minute counts. Life is a gift, and every choice we make should reflect that. When you realize that your happiness shouldn't be subordinated to what others think, a new light begins to shine. And that's where the urgency for change comes in. You don't want to look back and see that you let everything pass by. You want to look at your life and feel proud of the choices you've made. You genuinely want to live each moment fully, without regrets. And here's the good news. You can rewrite your story at any time. Yes, at any time. Life doesn't wait. It flows, and you have the power to decide how you want to live it. Instead of letting yourself be swept away by the currents of others' expectations, why not start making small decisions that reflect who you truly are? That's the true essence of freedom. What will you choose? To remain trapped by external expectations or to take control of your life? Remember, your life is yours. What you do with it is what truly matters. More than any approval or recognition, what counts is your personal satisfaction and the feeling that you're living fully. This feeling comes from a deeply transformative sensation. True freedom. Have you ever thought that the freedom you so desire is actually within you? Throughout our journey, we've learned to seek validation from others' expectations, to hide behind masks, and to lose ourselves in an endless race for approval. But what if I told you that the key to an authentic and fulfilling life lies in reconnecting with your true essence? Imagine for a moment. You wake up in the morning and, instead of asking how to please others, you ask yourself, what do I really want for myself today? This mindset shift is the first step toward freedom. When you start making choices based on who you really are, rather than what others expect, something magical happens. Life begins to unfold before you in ways you never imagined. This freedom isn't just about doing what you want. It's about being who you really are. When we let go of the need to please and allow ourselves to be authentic, we discover a world filled with possibilities. We can finally embrace our dreams, explore our passions, and surround ourselves with people who accept us for who we are, not for who we pretend to be. Remember that child we talked about earlier, the one who hid behind masks? Now, visualize that same child slowly taking each mask off, freeing themselves from the weight they carried. That's what happens when you start living authentically. Each mask you remove is like a piece of armor you leave behind. The feeling of lightness that comes from that is indescribable. True freedom comes with acceptance. Accepting that you are enough just as you are without needing external validation. This doesn't mean you can't grow or change, but that you do so from a place of self-love and self-awareness, not from insecurity or fear of judgment. It's a paradigm shift that can revolutionize your life. When you connect with your essence, you begin making choices that resonate with your true identity. Opportunities arise, relationships become more meaningful, and life in its entirety transforms. It's as if you're finally living at your own pace, following your own melody, rather than trying to keep up with the music others have chosen. And believe me, this generates an incredible strength within you. With every small step you take toward authenticity, your confidence grows. You become more resilient, braver, and more willing to face challenges. Difficulties that once seemed insurmountable begin to feel like mere steps in your journey, and you discover a determination you might not have known you possessed. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's true. It's a process that requires patience and practice. But with every moment you choose to be true to yourself, you're setting yourself free. You're allowing yourself to blossom in your own life instead of living as a shadow of others. And every step in that direction is a victory. So, let's do a little exercise together. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself living the life you truly desire, without the expectations of others. without insecurities. Just you with your dreams and aspirations. What do you see? What do you feel? Now, remember that this life is within your reach. The only thing you need to do is take the first step. Start questioning everything. Ask yourself, does this really make me happy? Is this aligned with who I am? By doing this, you'll begin to detach from expectations that no longer serve you. And slowly, the answers will come. True freedom is about being yourself, with all your nuances and imperfections. And when you embrace that, life transforms into something incredible. You start surrounding yourself with people who genuinely support you, who celebrate your victories and stand by you in difficult times. Authentic relationships form, and with them, an invaluable support network. Everything we've discussed leads us to a crucial point. True freedom is within you. By shedding the masks and seeking your authenticity, you transform not just your life, but also the relationships around you. Life becomes a fertile ground for your genuine dreams and desires. Now, imagine that thinking less could actually impact your life positively. It might sound strange, but overthinking can keep you from accessing a higher version of yourself. In the next video, we'll explore an ancient technique that will help you calm your mind and elevate your vibrational energy. Click on the next video that's appearing on the screen and discover how this can transform your life. See you there. Deep peace.